Okay, welcome to my first ever horoscope video. This is going to be a little series with horoscopes for each of the signs. Please look at the video for your rising sign, although you can look at the sign of your moon or your sun as well, and that will especially depend on whether you're born during the day, in which case you might feel that the message for your sun sign resonates more with you, or you can look at the video for your moon sign, and in that case you might feel that that horoscope applies more to you and what's going on in your personal life right now. So these videos are intended to cover the end of 2020 to guide you into 2021. There's a lot that is happening astrologically and for the collective, and so I'm choosing to relay these horoscopes mostly using my intuition and whatever tarot and other oracle cards come up to my third eye, instead of looking maybe more specifically at the transits and looking at it from a more analytical, explicitly astrological point of view. So if you want to view these horoscopes as sort of like using the zodiac signs as a means of organization and relaying messages, you can totally do so. I'm sure at some point in the future I will explicitly look at the transits per each rising sign, and I can look at whole sign houses for that. But in the meantime, I'm just going to channel messages in what I feel to be a more direct way for me personally, and that is just to use my intuition. Okay, so what I'm getting for the collective, first of all, is I'm feeling a sense of the Devil card and the Moon card, and I'm seeing the Justice card as well as a Seven of Swords card. So what these cards tell me is that for a lot of us right now, what we're going to face throughout this rest of the year and moving just right into 2021 is a lot of dealing with our shadow selves. It's a lot of dealing with situations where it sort of feels like maybe a sense of crisis for some of us, or it's kind of like being confronted with an aspect of ourselves, or having to make a choice that we didn't think that we'd have to make. It's being confronted with a side of ourselves that we didn't really know was there, or that was possible, to come out. We didn't think that this sort of side of us would come out from a situation, but there's a situation that has kind of arisen in our lives that's kind of provoked an emergence of a different side of us. It feels like a more it feels like it's done so in a way where we're exploring or coming to terms with the greater humanity of ourselves. So it may be something in us psychologically that's been repressed, or something in us that we didn't really know was a part of our personality, or something that we could do, right? There come times in our lives where we suddenly find ourselves doing things that we never envisioned ourselves doing, feeling things that we never thought that we'd feel, things like that. So these situations have come up in order for us to greater confront our humanity, and that's what Spirit wants me to relay today, is that our humanity is greater than our ideas and illusions of ourselves. It's greater than our maybe narrow-minded perception of who we are, and even if that perception is rooted in something good, quote unquote good, or negative, if we have a negative perception of ourselves, there's going to be something that comes up that's going to test that and broaden that perspective in that way. If you've had the feeling like, oh, I would never do that kind of thing, Spirit is saying like, well, if there's a situation that's going to bring that up, and you're going to have to confront that in a way that helps you see that there is more to you than you thought, and it's going to call on you to perhaps elicit greater compassion for yourself, and that being in a way where you may also have greater empathy for others than you did before, having come to the situation of crisis that really compels you to see that there's so much more to being a person, and there's so much more to the human experience than you thought, and especially than you thought would be applicable to you throughout your journey in this lifetime. And so what they were showing to me earlier with the Moon card coming up, it's going to sort of feel like you're a little bit unbalanced. I'm seeing the Nine of Swords, so this may cause you to, there may be some situation that causes you to think a lot, or to feel maybe like sudden like panic or regret about how things are going, but Spirit wants you to feel at ease, because they're showing me the Mountain Lenormand card, and they're showing me the Hierophant card and the Knight of Swords. So there's sort of like this unfolding of events that kind of has provoked your impulse to kind of rush to conclusions, or to kind of apply a heavy-handed, moralistic view and take on things, and it feels like there's an obstacle and there's a delay, there's a feeling of challenge to the situation, that especially is going to elicit some of these things from you, these feelings of like, you know, thinking a lot, overthinking, overanalyzing a situation. Spirit wants you to like, ooh, hold back, you know, like kind of let your thoughts rest and kind of let them be. Notice that your emotions, I see a boat rocking in the water, which means that, you know, yes, your boat is not completely still right now, but when you know, pay attention, you'll see that it's not like the whirlpool that you imagine. There's not necessarily like that kind of energy right at this moment. I am getting though that, you know, the feeling of a hurricane may gather, and this is, they're telling me especially like, they're telling me December and January, and especially January, I'm hearing that lightning. So there is something about the situation that may culminate, but as of now, it does feel like it's a little bit more steady. If you're watching this, especially in December, for those of you watching this later, you may feel like this has picked up a bit more speed and momentum, but as of now, for those of you especially watching it, maybe like late November, early December, there's still sort of like that hanged man energy where Spirit is advising you to kind of hold still, kind of, you know, you don't need to initiate or make any final decisions right now, but just kind of see how things play out and reserve your judgment for later. You know, again, even though you're seeing things from the point of view of the Hierophant, of what's right and what's wrong, you know, and there's black and white, Spirit is showing a lot of gray area. That I feel like is what's going to happen for the collective right now, that may happen for us personally, and that's what these horoscopes are going to be about, but especially on the level they're telling me of nations even, or communities, even of a collective humanity. It feels like there's just this, I'm seeing a lot of gray, and they're showing me the moon side of a lot of psychological, just, you know, deeper unease and uncertainty about the future. It just feels like there's a lot of ambiguity, and they're showing me the Eight of Swords to show that for a lot of us, we don't really know the way out. We feel kind of trapped. We feel like there's no real viable options for us to take at this time. But Spirit is advising and us to remember, they want to reassure us that things are happening as they're meant to happen. Things are kind of unfolding at the right speed as well. So even though, you know, I'm seeing the Tower card, I'm seeing the Mountain card showing like there may be an energy of delays and shocks or challenges for some, and then also the energy of shocks and upheavals. They're saying like all of this is a grand culmination of things. I feel like there is meant to be this collective like outpouring of energy that can feel like it feels like a lot of things. It feels like there's this brewing of like things that felt stagnant, and there's also like kind of like this heavier momentum like steering up the earth. So some of us are going to feel like our foundations are being shaken up for sure, and again, we're going to feel that on a collective level in some way as well. And this is going to go for some, I'm getting the feeling of, again, countries. They're showing me nations. Some nations are going to feel it a little bit harder than others, but Spirit is advising us, again, take heart. Things are unfolding as they're meant to unfold, and to pay attention. They're showing me the Star card there, and they're showing me sort of like glimmers of light through the fog. So they're saying there's going to be signposts, there's going to be little clues about a way to get out. There's still going to be something bigger than the situation, that it's not just this confusion as of now, that, you know, they're saying that's not all there is. There's going to be light at the end of the tunnel, maybe a ways off, or you may not see it clearly as of now, but, you know, seeing these pinpricks of starlight, it's really a reminder to have hope and to have faith, and, you know, to keep paying attention to these little glimmers of light and hope that we're going to get, as many of us face these types of situations on a more personal level. So that's kind of what I'm getting for now. There is going to be like a stirring of the pot in some way, and it's going to feel ambiguous or uncertain. You're not really going to know how to cope maybe at first, but again, take heart, because this is just sort of like what is meant to happen for this tail end of 2020. I mean, it's seeding greater things. I'm feeling like it's setting the stage almost for a plot point that's going to happen later on. I feel like, especially for some of us, I'm actually seeing, I know I kind of saw the tail of 2021, but I'm seeing 2022 is going to be a big year for some of us in the collective. And they're saying there's going to be a thread from this end of this year to some developments that are going to happen, especially in 2022. So for those of you to whom that message applies or feels like it resonates, you can take that and, you know, especially see how that plays out coming, you know, as time plays out from this right now, this end of 2020, going throughout 2021, especially in 2022, because I feel like some of you, there's some kind of thread, there's some kind of link to what's going on right now that sets the stage for something going on in 2022. So I'd love to hear, you know, your feedback on this message for the collective, and, you know, if you see how this resonates with you and plays out and throughout the months and potentially years to come. But so aside from this collective message, you're also going to get the horoscopes, and that's going to start right after this bit, and you just kind of look through and pick your timestamp for the zodiac sign that corresponds to you, especially your ascendant sign, but potentially your moon and sun as well. Starting off with Aries, what I'm seeing as a spotlight of focus right now is I am seeing the Four of Wands tarot card. So the Four of Wands has a lot to do with home. I'm getting the word happiness and stability as well, but I am seeing the Moon tarot card to underscore that there are feelings of maybe psychological confusion, uncertainty, doubt. I'm getting the feeling of potentially guilt, and maybe just a sort of ambiguity around what it is you desire or how you want to navigate from a situation that is happening with, I think, people that are very close to you, or it could be coming from a deep place. It could have to do with wanting to connect more to your home, your heritage, your ancestors. It could have to do with your explicit family, or it could have to do with people that you live with. So all of those different things, you're gonna have to look at which specific aspect of that house is coming into play for you. If I were going to look at the whole sign chart, I'm definitely assuming that there's going to be some fourth house activity going on, especially with these eclipses coming up and with different things going on with these different lunations, with the new moon that had just happened in Scorpio, and moving into the next lunation. So what I'm seeing is that there's a situation where you have felt or are currently feeling compelled to heal and move forward in some way, because they're showing me the Six of Swords, and they're also showing me the Three of Swords as well, and they're showing me the Justice card and the Seven of Swords card. So what this shows to me is that there's a situation where you are trying to move on from something that was maybe a little bit painful. There may have been conflict or some kind of disagreement between you and someone else, or it could just have been that a situation brought up some internal conflict for you, and I am seeing the Five of Wands to affirm that message. So what I'm seeing there is that there's just a feeling of sort of distance. There could be a feeling of heartbreak or betrayal. There's some sort of like, I'm seeing there was like a sort of push-pull between you and, you know, for those of you that are dealing with family members specifically, because I am getting that feeling of relatives, and of where there's sort of like kind of like disagreements and not seeing eye to eye. I'm seeing that like they're showing me like the relative, and then there's you, and then you're kind of like looking almost like you're looking around at each other, but not really. I think that you are each kind of your sight is sort of obscured by your personal biases, your subjective opinions. And so that's, I mean, of course, that's just how it is. That's how people tend to see things, from their own point of view. But here it's difficult because I'm sensing a miscommunication. I'm sensing difficulty adopting the perspective of the other person that you're having a sort of conflict or issue with. And so for those of you that are in this situation, what I'm seeing, the Justice card from earlier, and when I was seeing the Seven of Swords card, I'm feeling that the issue or the opportunity for growth for you is to dive in deeper and to address what exactly is causing you so much psychological unease, because I'm seeing again the Moon card to represent those feelings of confusion, uncertainty, and doubt. When the Moon card shows up, this can typically represent things coming up from maybe your shadow side, or things in your psyche that you have typically kept repressed in some way. These things could have to do with childhood wounds that go deeper than beyond the recent past. So however deep those wounds are for you, or how long they go back, I'm feeling that these things are kind of coming into play right now for those of you who are trying to heal, for those of you who have had these situations come up in order to compel you to contemplate what exactly is going on in an internal sense, and for you to understand yourself better. Okay, so for those of you who are in this situation, what Spirit is showing me is I am getting the sense of this being a fruitful time. Actually, it's a time of I don't know if germination is the right word, but planting seeds in a way that, and it's going to yield fruit further on into, they're telling me 2021. So the situation right now, it's an intentional thing. This was sort of like a situation that was meant to occur. And again, that was to sort of like bring, like unroot certain things inside of us, things that are ready to come out. They're showing me carrots, and they're showing me like rabbits eating the carrots for some reason. So in some way, it's like these things that have grown inside of us. And it's not necessarily in a negative way with wounds that have like taken hold, but it's also the lessons that come with those wounds. It's sort of like I'm hearing the toaster, that the dinging of a toaster, to show that something is ready and it's time to take it out. In a way, it helps those of you with strong Aries placements to nourish yourselves. Again, this is something, it's an opportunity for reflection and contemplation, because I'm seeing a mirror to show me that. And for those of you with the family stuff coming up, or people who are really close to you and you're kind of having these disagreements, maybe for the first time in a while, or it may have been something that's building, this definitely feels like it was sort of like a pact between maybe your soul and theirs to sort of like get into this disagreement so that each of you would hopefully potentially walk away having learned something new. I'm also getting the feeling that for those of you to whom this specific facet doesn't apply with, the family or other people close to you, like some of you, this may have to do with housing issues, with, the Four of Wands having shown up. They're showing me now the King of Wands, and they're showing me the Moon card, and they are showing me, I do see the House Lenormand card, and I'm seeing the Child Lenormand card. So that shows to me that there are issues potentially around housing. They're showing me like plumbing, and like there's something, it's like something about structural and foundational, or something potentially about, for those of you who are going through house issues on like a literal level, something to do with your housing situation. There may be something structural, foundational that's kind of come up, and it's kind of like asking you to pay attention, and it's kind of caused you to realize like there's something that's not sustainable about your situation, and it's causing you to feel like you are questioning or having doubts about this housing situation you're in. It's something to do with agreements. It could have to do with roommates, people that you live with, something to do with your landlord, if you're a tenant, something like that. There's something, structural. It could be a physical issue with your apartment. It could have to do with agreements that you sign, different arrangements like that. So that's kind of a thing that's kind of come up now. And what this is also for you, this also, it is a seeding moment. I'm seeing something burrowing in the dirt, and it's almost like at the surface of the dirt, but the dirt, the soil looks super fertile. So with that, what I'm getting there, and it's funny, it's kind of creating space for water. And it's something about like when you go deeper into the earth and you're going, you're kind of digging at these, your understanding of the situation and what it is you want. It's in order to make space for better, more positive emotions, for you to gain a better emotional understanding of what it is that you need in a home. And I am seeing the Six of Swords, I'm seeing the Three of Swords again, for those of you with these Aries placements. And what they're showing is, again, like this feeling of separation or distance from your heart's desire, from the culmination of what it is in that you need in your happy space. This is, again, designed so that you are better able to intentionally create the circumstances to either manifest those things or to take more practical logistical steps in order to create those conditions that you want. So this is a seeding moment, and I'm seeing the Four of Swords. So for those of you for whom your living situation is it's not like a major problem for you right now, those of you who this applies to, you're being called to sort of like put it to rest. Don't overthink it right now, because things are going to unfold. I'm seeing like cards falling over like dominoes. There's going to be a chain of events happening, especially from December and moving into maybe like the very beginning of January. So something that was like untenable with the situation, something unsustainable. You don't necessarily need to do anything active right now, but know that the situation is occurring so that these next sort of plot points are going to give you a better understanding of what exactly it is that you need to do in order to move forward. And I am getting like it feels almost like an excavation, but not quite, but it does feel like kind of a sweeping or clearing of like a wooden floor, and it feels like it's kind of like the bare bones of a house is kind of what I'm seeing. And I'm seeing the Two of Swords and the Justice card. So it's like holding back from any extreme emotions and letting reason kind of coalesce there and guide you. This is going to be a big key for you in order to assess a situation when these next plot points come up. So hopefully that makes sense for all of you who are dealing with situations that have to do, again, with your home, with family members, your housing situation, or some feeling of deeper stability, or for those of you who are seeking a deeper connection to ancestors. This is something that's going to kind of come up, where this feeling of disconnection is going to propel you. It's going to move you forward, and it's just a sort of like unveiling process whereby different events are going to unfold, and just as they're meant to. I'm hearing the words divine timing in my mind. So just to know that you're going to get some further clues and answers, and then just trust your gut instincts when that moves forward, and you're going to get those clear answers about how to proceed and move into 2021. The next message is for those of you who have strong Taurus placements, especially those of you who have Taurus as your ascendant sign, and for those of you who may have it as either your sun or your moon sign. So what I'm getting from Taurus, I am getting actually a big sense of like kind of the earth shaking, and I am seeing like that Freaky Friday movie moment where they're yelling out earthquake, earthquake. So there's something about that. There's something about I am getting the feeling of sense of self, some kind of impression that you've made potentially upon others or someone else. It's kind of like been boomeranged back at you. I think it's a moment of realizing that or not that, but how specifically you've projected onto other people, or how you've been reacting to things, and that's kind of been brought into play right now as an opportunity for self-reflection at the moment. I'm seeing something where you were confronted by someone else, and that shows you either like something that you don't like about yourself, or it has to do with something that you admire in that person. And I feel that whatever it is, like I'm seeing like spirit kind of wants to show you a mirror, but I kind of see you evading, like looking, it's kind of like a small mirror. And I see you kind of like evading it, you're dodging it, you're kind of like, you kind of look surprised. There's something about the situation that I feel like, I don't know if it was like a shock to you, or you didn't realize that you would react like that. You would have such a strong, impulsive, like emotional response to either a person or a situation that came up. And the thing that I'm getting is like, it seems small. Like I'm getting that for some of you, this isn't even like, oh, like a big conversation that was had necessarily, but it's sort of like these small interactions that you may have had, or it could be you overhearing something or glancing at something like online, or just seeing how somebody behaves in general. And it kind of brings up these feelings of like, I kind of want to say unease, or it could have to do with jealousy or envy. It's like you see something that someone has, or something that they do, and it feels like something that you want to do, and it's sort of like bringing that up. But because you're not really looking at the mirror, you're not really taking that opportunity to self-reflect, you're not seeing how, like in a full way, how you actually also have the potential to embody those qualities that you admire. For those of you that had a reaction of distaste, I feel like it's sort of a sour feeling in your mouth. I can kind of get that. That's kind of what I taste right now, is like a sour taste. It's sort of like something about that is meant to reorient you. I'm feeling like Spirit saying like, good job. Like I feel like for whatever reason, maybe for a lot of the Taurus risings that follow me or are watching this video, I'm getting like you've done a good job of steering yourself on course. And right now what they want you to focus on, I'm seeing you like if you were on the boat, and it kind of looks like a Viking ship, but I'm seeing like everybody kind of putting their oars down, and you're the captain of the ship, and I feel like they're kind of paused for some reason, or they may be waiting for further direction from you. This is of course figurative. It has to do, with the boat moving through the water. That has to do with how, and you being the commander here, that's what I'm sensing. This has to do with how you direct your emotional vessel, so to speak. It's how you direct and navigate through an emotional process. So I'm seeing that the boat is like a little bit off course, off of like being in a straight path or aligned in that way, because it's veered like a little bit to the side, and to the right. That's what I'm seeing. So if you were kind of at the back and facing the front of the ship. So that's what I'm seeing when I say it's pointing to the right. And so what I'm feeling from there is Spirit is giving you the opportunity to learn to micro adjust. I feel like life is handing you these small things that provoke these little reactions, so that you are able to learn kind of and navigate and adapt more quickly. It's sort of like when you notice these smaller reactions, then you're way better able to keep your ship on course, so to speak. And so that's a matter of establishing equilibrium and maintaining equilibrium, maintaining that emotional balance so that things don't really rock you off kilter. Again, like Spirit's telling me that a lot of you who are watching this video, you've done a really good job of doing that and of maintaining your sense of authenticity and just being true to yourself. But really what they're showing you now is just there's something I feel like lately, and it just feels like prickly. It's like something that kind of bothers you in a lower level. In Spirit, their message to you, Taurus risings, those of you watching this video, is to kind of like look at that. They're peeling back the layer of skin, saying, why does this little thing get under your skin to this degree? You know, it's something that's not big, it's not a big issue, you may not have gotten in a fight with someone, but again, it's like there's the situation that's come up for you lately, and what they want you to pay attention to is these opportunities to really sit back and reflect, so that when these little situations come, you're so much better able to catch them. I'm seeing almost like that game, I think it's like, I forgot what it's called. I probably put like a caption of what it is when you move like the spaceship back and forth. My brain is just sort of blanking, but it's like when you get these like almost like little pellets, or like I see it as, it sort of looks like a game, and it's all these little like crystals coming at you. It's sort of like you can catch them faster, and the fact that they're crystals, I feel like they're showing like opportunities to heal or tap into different energies. It just feels to me like learning opportunities on a spiritual, emotional, mental level, and all this is meant for you to feel more refreshed, because I'm seeing you look more invigorated. You're sort of like, you have your head out the window, sort of like you're a dog, but you're a human, and you're just smiling when the sun is shining on you, and you just look kind of like healthy in a sense because of just how your internal processes have been moving. And so they're showing me the Seven of Swords. They're saying, you know, this is something you don't necessarily need to talk out. It's more of an internal process for you to, you know, sit back and really assess for yourself in a more private way. You know, this doesn't feel like something that you have to, you know, externalize really to some great extent. It's really just a private process for you to analyze your feelings, assess the facts, assess the situation, see, you know, what is this showing me about myself, about what I want, either, you know, something I like about someone else, or something that I feel like I don't like about them, and that is showing me something about myself, or something that I need to unpack, so that I no longer project sort of like my own feelings about myself onto other people. So hopefully that makes sense. If any of you have questions about it, or want to leave any comments about how much it resonated with you, definitely feel free to do so. Okay, so this next message is for Gemini placements, those of you who either have a Gemini rising, or maybe the sun or moon in the sign of Gemini. So I am getting a really interesting feeling for those of you with Gemini placements. I am getting the sense of the Four of Wands, but I'm also getting the feeling of the Six of Cups. So what I'm getting from these cards, I'm getting the feeling of celebration of some sort, or of happiness, of some sort of like sentimental feeling. It could have to do with somebody that you care very deeply about, and in a way that feels like maybe childhood sweethearts. It doesn't mean that this is someone that you connect with on a romantic level, but it's someone with whom you kind of have that feeling of fondness for in a very sweet way. And the thing that I'm getting about that is I'm seeing that there's sort of like, what Spirit is showing me is that there's sort of like a price to pay in regard to that. I'm seeing like a receipt, and I'm seeing like at the bottom of it, balance due, and they're handing the receipt to you. And I am sort of seeing like a flip side to all the happiness that you're feeling. I wouldn't say you should take it as overpowering or being equal in magnitude to the feeling of happiness that you've been experiencing recently, but I am sort of seeing kind of like just like an underside to it, because it feels like sort of like, I don't want to say sewer grate. Well, I guess it does kind of look like a sewer grate, but then I'm seeing the feelings of the moon tarot card, and the Nine of Swords tarot card, and I am also seeing the Hierophant as well, and that kind of having to do with this underside to the situation. It feels like the situation of happiness, of sentimentality, of something that feels good for you, that sort of like nourishes your feeling of vitality, your peace and your joy, kind of also causes you to reflect on what I'm getting is the ethics of the situation, and I feel like just sort of like the price that you have to pay in order to not realize, but sort of decide for yourself, like, what am I going to do with the situation? How will I move forward from here? I'm seeing the Hanged Man card as symbolic of the advice that Spirit wants to give to you right now, which is hold tight, reserve your judgment for now. You don't really have to make a decision at this point, but sort of like suspend yourself, you know, in this position of not really doing anything, but just having your eyes wide open to things from a perspective that you wouldn't necessarily take. Like, wait for those views to come up, or these new emotions or feelings of understanding to arise that will help you feel like you are finally getting a better kind of perspective, a more whole perspective on the situation, just sort of like a more objective understanding of what's going on, aside from maybe your more immediate thoughts, feelings, and desires. What I'm seeing right now is, again, they're showing me the Hierophant card, which has to do with ethics. It has to do with right and wrong, you know, morality, of sort of like, what is the right thing for me to do right now? How can they're telling me, you know, what you're thinking about right now is, how can I do things for me? I'm sorry, they're like giving me words, but not, it's sort of like not at the sake of hurting others. It feels like without hurting others, or how can I do what I want without forsaking others? I feel like that's what they're telling me now that the message has come through a little bit better. But it's sort of like feeling like if you're gonna put your eggs in that basket, it's sort of like you're seeing something trickle away from something else. It's sort of like, the feeling I'm getting is that you just can't have it all. I feel like you're gonna have your slice of cake, but it's sort of like, I forgot what that phrase is, but it's something like you're gonna have a slice of this cake, but then when you do that, you can't necessarily like eat from this other like dessert that they have going on. And it feels like even though you really like love this dessert, like it's sort of like, oh, you kind of like this other dessert too. So it feels like there's two like good situations, but it feels like one kind of pulls at your heart a little bit more. The other one, you're kind of keeping it close. It feels like it sort of feels right to you, and like on paper, it's like, this is the right thing for me. But on the other hand, this other kind of opportunity or relationship that you have, something, you know, like that brings you that feeling of joy, no matter what it's related to specifically for you. It just feels like, even though it's kind of unconventional, it would take some rewiring on your parts and tinkering around to have it fit in your life. You can already tell, like, it feels better for you. I can feel it. It feels like the way it makes you feel is like it's a breath of fresh air. It's something that brings you joy and happiness. And this other thing, it's not like you really like dislike it. It's also good, but it's just like it feels like a little bit heavier for me. It feels like there's something about it that kind of feels like a weight. It feels like you're relating to the situation out of a feeling of a need for safety, kind of, you know, this is like your plan B is what I'm getting. And this other one, it's sort of like, it feels like, oh, like I don't know, like I feel like you kind of want it to be plan A. You kind of want to put a crown on whatever that is. But there's that hesitation, and there's that judgment and suspicion and doubt. And again, it's sort of feeling like they're showing me the Eight of Swords, which to me shows that you feel like you're kind of in a tight spot. You're in a situation where you're kind of not sure what the way out is. And again, without anybody getting hurt. That's what they're telling me. So it feels like there are some sacrifices that may need to be made just in order to like keep going after this thing that brings you joy. But they're saying like, don't cut off anything yet. They're saying let the situation unfold naturally. I feel like they kind of want you to hold on to yourself and kind of keep yourself braced for what's going to unfold from this point out, especially through the end of the year. But they're saying like, kind of like let go of fear. Like I feel like Spirit's trying to like pry something out of your like tight fist, and I feel like it's like a pink paper, pink having to do with like the heart, but I feel like it's fears around the heart. And so and they are showing me that on this piece of like pink kind of like notepad paper, you've written like fears, and there's kind of like a list and check marks, and it's like all the things that sort of like freak you out about the situation, and it's a feeling of doubt and just reservation about, you know, around the issue of moving forward with your heart, or being more in line with your heart. It sort of feels like you've been through experiences that make you feel like you cannot safely embark, you know, on a journey towards like your heart's greatest desires. It feels like you kind of, in a way that has made you feel like, let me just settle for plan B or the safe option. You know, and I feel like that Fool is something, the Fool card is something you envision. The Fool card representing you know, that a carefree, open-minded attitude of not knowing what's going to come, but kind of moving after it anyway, and kind of going along with your heart's desire, or being open just to what the universe has in store for you. And it's something that you kind of fantasize about or consider, because I'm seeing the Seven of Cups card, which, you know, has to do with fantasizing or just kind of thinking through all your options, kind of envisioning what might play out. And so Spirit just kind of wants you to hold on for now, but, you know, kind of like brace yourself, or like be strong, but without clenching too tightly, without, you know, being so braced that you're like super self-defensive, or you're expecting like the worst to happen. They're saying there's still some plot points to unfold in sort of like this period of your life. It sort of feels like this chapter, there's a few things that are going to happen. It feels like seeding. It feels like whatever's going on now, I feel like it's actually going to seed the plot for like a ways out. There's something about what's going on for you right now that's going to come for you. Maybe a little, it feels like it may come full circle, or it's going to come around again. I feel like, but it's years out. So there's something, you know, if this has to do with a person that you know, it could be that they're a plot point that's going to recur later, and maybe that they're a recurring character in your life. Or just something about the situation is going to feel familiar to you, maybe in a couple to a few years time. I'm just getting it definitely coming in a matter of years though for some of you. You know, and again, the situation is just going to pop up again in some way, or it could be like the themes of the situation, if not like the exact setup. So Spirit is urging you just to sort of like, again, hold tight. Don't be too afraid. Kind of keep an eye out for any new perspectives that may come up at this time. And definitely still, they do want you to heed your conscience, but for you to do so in a way that also makes room for what feels like the truth of the heart, the desires of the heart. And it's going to be difficult because you may have to grapple with it too. It may feel like they're not aligned, but Spirit is saying your spiritual journey is about more than these, and encompasses both in a way that is very human. It's not something that you can explicitly understand in a rational way. So just make room for these things to unfold in a way maybe that you don't expect, and continue to have that faith that things are happening as they're meant to. Don't really resist, you know, what your path has in store for you. But again, just keep your eyes open and understand that, you know, what life is bringing to you right now is new truths about your heart. And I think that you're going to get a feeling of revelation, illumination about where it is that you want to go from this point forward.